Well, hello everyone. My name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. As February is winding to a close, we've covered an antagonist that you can use for your Dungeons & Dragons game, especially if it's a horror theme here. And I just really want to kind of finish up the various plots that you could use the Lodgemaster for. Again, one of the reasons why I'm spending the last couple of days talking about plots that you can use for the Lodgemaster in a horror-based Dungeons & Dragons game is that I know for a fledgling Dungeon Master or someone who's run exclusively from campaign books and maybe modules, they can be very difficult to homebrew up your own stuff. One, it's totally okay that you do use campaign books and modules. I would never say that that is a lesser way to play. And two, I know it's difficult and you're probably going to fail, but if I can help you, I really want to do so. As a quick reminder, the Lodgemaster is a demon who takes the form of a distinguished older gentleman when he's in the mortal world, and he founds these lodges where he uses that reputation that he has as kind of a man's man, a ladies' man, an avid hunter, to draw in young noblemen as well as the sons of merchant families, kind of induct them into a very toxic way of seeing the world, and also get them initiated into his dark cult. And then he releases them back on society so they can ruin high society and thus spread chaos everywhere. And that's kind of the plot that we're going to talk about today, as opposed to just maybe hunting lodges and using them as a brute force villain. As a quick reminder, the four subgenres of horror that the Lodgemaster and his minions represent are body horror, demonic horror, corruption horror, and class horror. And this sort of storyline really leans on the latter two, corruption and class horror. This is also more of a political game as well, where maybe the players are going to be spending a lot of time in cities with maybe short forays out into the forest when they're dealing with the hunts themselves. It also means that the lodge that they're dealing with might not be a lodge at all. It could be a private military school or a small college of some sort, or even like a internal society within a court that the young male courtiers are drawn into, that the Lodgemaster controls. So the first thing the Lodgemaster is going to do is look for a weak ruler. This is someone who might be unpopular or just sickly and long in the tooth with no male heirs or that sort of thing, where power is very weak and very tenuous. And he's going to go and see which of the noble families have sons that are maybe more callow and ignoble, or maybe this rising merchant class that is very easy to corrupt because they're wanting that power for their sons, and oftentimes they're willing to backstab and destroy people along the way as needed. So it's a really ripe ground for him to pluck these youths out of. He's going to induct them into, again, a private military school, a hunting lodge, or a secret society that they're part of, where he can speak to them one-on-one and really act as kind of this toxic influencer. The first set of things he's going to say makes sense to them. You know, people may be ignoring you. They might be talking about how that you're a weak person and that your barony or principality is weak and it's going to fall. But I know that all of you have it in you to make this area strong again. That sort of thing. Then slowly but surely he's going to start injecting darker ideas that really it's this nobleman being weak and not being able to produce a male heir, perhaps, that kind of shows the sickness in the society. And look at how the commoners are acting, and they're kind of disrespecting people, and someone really has to put the fear back into them, and how in the end we're all either predators or prey, and I really want all of you to be prey. Just this ideology that is dripping with this kind of toxic masculinity that I think we recognize can be very damaging to a young man. So this is a part where the players could also start to get involved. Maybe there's someone in your party who has the noble background, or maybe that they are folk heroes in the area, or they're just traveling through and they notice, hey, there's a group of youths that are perhaps bullying commoners, or disappearing off and doing strange hunts and strange rituals in the woods, and everybody's afraid of them. If they're the noble background, maybe it's a distant cousin or even a brother that is drawn into this inner circle, and it becomes very personal because this is someone they care about and they want to fetch them out as they notice them slowly twist and change in the way that they treat other people, in the way that they see the world. Now, it's not only the nobles that he is going to focus on during this time, but again, those sort of merchant families, because they're really the ones that have kind of the inner workings of power when it comes to money. Nobles, they're going to have status. Of course, they're going to have their coffers, but those up-and-coming or established merchant sons, they're going to have businesses to take over. They're going to have larger contacts in cities and towns. They're going to know the trade routes. They might even have some connections to crime and that sort of stuff. And he starts to really garner that support on the future leaders of who's going to control the various levers in society when it comes to production, when it comes to trade and the like, as well as those that are really in charge when it comes to status. And maybe he wants that merchant class because he's not finding a group of nobles who will be suitable to overthrow those nobles and establish power for themselves or make them into puppets, or vice versa. If there isn't really a good amount of merchant sons that he can corrupt, but he's got a lot of really callow youth and nobility, well, they've got to really take their power back because they have divine right to own all this stuff, and they shouldn't let these upstart merchants take over. This is a way, if you have someone in your group that is a guild artisan background, that they're going to be involved in this sort of politicking that's going on and seeing the corruption of guilds from within. Either they want to move up and overthrow the power, or the power that be, nobles, are pushing down on them, and it's starting to cause some sort of problems. Now the Lodgemaster has seized the reins of production, as it were, either from the nobles down or the merchants up, or from both sides. The next step really is to seize the throne. Again, that could be a prince's position. It could be taking the throne of a king, overthrowing a baron, taking over a duchy, that sort of thing, where he's not going to do it directly, but he's going to have that cadre of youth with one that stands out above them all, who's ever the most cruel, the most vicious, whoever's going to make everybody's life the most miserable, your Prince John sort of character at the lead of them, that's going to now make a power play that is supported by the lodge and all the other different things that is infected along the way. On top of that, more than likely, this inner cadre, this Prince John-like character, isn't perhaps going to be weak. They're going to be monstrosities who are hiding their true forms through magic and well-tailored clothes and the like, where they have these very bestial, demonic traits that now start to come to the fore, as more than likely people are going to be confronting them. Of course, your players earlier on could have nipped everything in the bud at the early stages, but as they grow in power, your players, it might take them a while to the point where they can actually challenge these nobles and these merchants, and they're already going to be very powerful and very numerous, so it's a good way to kind of start low, where you're dealing with just these small little politics of what's going on. Hey, there's these strange things happening in the woods. Hey, there's maybe a merchant gets assassinated, maybe a nobleman goes missing, whatever it is that the various lodge members are working on to start stabilizing. And by the time they've rescued all these people, now you're up in levels, and that Prince John-like character, that's just the easy example for most people to think of, is now making his power play to take over. And it's up to your high-level characters, probably tier 2, maybe tier 3, to stop him. As we have a leap day tomorrow, that means you get one more little plot idea, as long as nothing interferes between now and then for me to talk about it. I'd love to hear how you would use the Lodgemaster and his minions in your own campaign down below in the comments. As usual, you can find the Lodgemaster, all of his minions, and hundreds of other horror-themed monsters for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They're all perfectly free at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons role-playing content that I have, or the horror fiction that I write, that includes grease paint right here, you can always go to www.zacharyoshay.com. Again, I thank you for your time and your attention. I know these last couple of videos are going to be very long, but I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.